All right, we should be, yes, we should be live here. Good. I'll find out in a moment. Oh, I'll find out at the end of the recording, I suppose. But we'll see. All right, back to Den of Fortune. This is about an hour later than I wanted to be starting this, so I apologize to myself for that. But there were a bunch of things that I wanted to get set up before actually starting the recording. So in the previous part, remember, we had randomly created these, sorry, we had found a way to get internal walls inside of our random dungeon, and the part before that we just assigned the rooms to random positions within this 5x4 grid. So we're kind of faking randomness here by having these random walls up here, the sequence of walls. I had these two implemented. I have since implemented these four. And just to show that off, common events, interior wall randomizer, yeah, go away. And we can see that this is now 6 sequence of numbers, which correspond to the other possible orientations here. And just to show this off a little bit, let's do a random one from 3 to 6, so one that we didn't see in the previous part. Again, testing is so important. Always test early, test often. You will find things. In implementing these, I have already tested all 4 of them. There was actually a bug in my implementation. If you were in this room, it was blocked to the north, but this room going to the south was fine. So I had to fix that. So I have actually walked through all 4 of these layouts. Whoops, let's go here. So we don't actually know where we are. Isn't that exciting? So we'll wander around, treasure. By the way, you can hold down, what? Just say you can hold down control to walk through things, but something seems to have disabled that functionality. Okay. We have a really long corridor here. All right. It's probably one of the plugins that I installed. I'll be getting into that in a bit, because plugins are where we want to be working today. Yeah, but anyway, this is just a different setup than we've had previously. Yeah, so you can probably tell by now that we are on layout 6 here. Oh, we missed a room down here. Yeah. And then I believe we started at the top right corner. Oh, boss room right adjacent to the stairs. I don't think that's something I'm going to worry about. I think I might just allow that to happen. But I might make the boss room set up in such a way that the boss is sort of off to a corner so you can walk through, maybe. There's a number of things that I need to figure out as far as the actual room layouts go. Yes, so anyway, we have one of those. Oops, wrong one. Not quite yet. So anyway, seems to be working fine. So 1 to 6 will allow all of these to go in here. One more thing that I am thinking about is that it would be awfully nice to have a mini-map. You could argue that this takes away from immersion or from the ability to, your sense of exploration. But honestly, I think a mini-map is just such a widely accepted and expected quality of life feature at this point that really, if we're doing, especially if we're doing a randomly generated dungeon, any kind of dungeon crawl, grid-based dungeon crawl, I feel like a mini-map is just sort of expected at this point. I don't quite know how I would go about implementing that just yet, which is why we're not doing it today, because I want to actually think about it instead of just jumping in and blundering around a whole bunch. Anyway, we don't need this anymore. Let's get rid of it. Here it is. Okay, so today I want to start looking at monsters, kind of, but more specifically and more generally, I want to be looking at the combat system. So what we've done up until now is we've got a randomly generated dungeon layout, effectively, and I think that that's important for this project. I wanted to get that system implemented. I can worry about what the rooms actually look like in the future. So we'll start big picture, get the system done, and then work on little details at the end. I think the details are the fun stuff anyway, so hopefully we'll have all that to look forward to. So same deal here with the combat. I could be dealing with all the different monsters and things like that, but I would like to actually have a working combat system first. Now, I do want to talk briefly, though, about what I'm planning on doing with monsters in this game. So Yanfly, which, if you don't know who Yanfly is, you're probably not watching this video. I'd imagine everybody watching this is familiar with Yanfly. I'll get into that a little bit more in a moment as well. But anyway, Yanfly has a video about different monster roles within a dungeon, and I thought this was really interesting. So we essentially have 7 roles plus the boss. And they are, these are my notes here. Filler basically introduces the theme and allows for player experimentation. So these are your basic trash mobs that pretty much have no threat whatsoever. Their purpose is to introduce the players to the theme of the dungeon, and also to allow them to experiment with their skills a little bit. Attacker is going to be a fairly generic attacking type that does moderate damage. Caster does heavy damage, but has a delay between attacks. So the attacker is just sort of your general attrition, whereas caster is burst damage. So these are 2 different types of attacks to deal with, to force your tank or your healer or whatever to deal with those. The defender, this is sort of like the monster's tank, protecting the other monsters. Healer helps the monsters to recover. If I know RPG games, people just love it when the monsters have a healer. Man, that's their favorite thing ever. No, this is almost always the first target I've seen in any Let's Play or discussion of any kind of RPG troop. Let's use the RPG Maker terms for it. You have a troop of monsters. The healer is almost always the first target, because who wants to have all of their hard work being undone by the enemy, right? And that's also why you protect your own healers, generally. So then we have the buffer and the debuffer, which do about what you'd expect. Buffer makes the monster stronger, debuffer makes the players weaker. Finally, there's a boss, which is a final exam, and combines... a good boss should play on the theme of the level, combining aspects of these monsters, but maybe also doing something... maybe not exactly new, but like doing a new take on the same theme or something along those lines. Right? So just if the player has been paying attention and figured out how to deal with all the monsters, then the boss shouldn't surprise them too much, but you still want to have the boss be interesting, so there'll be some degree of surprise there. So with all of that said and done, for this cave, the theme is going to be physical damage and rats. So we have a gameplay theme and a thematic, monster thematic theme. It's a bit redundant, but there it is. Okay, so the thematic theme, we're going to have rats. This is what we're going to have as the enemies for the cave. The gameplay theme, I want them to be focused around physical damage, because this is the first level of the dungeon, and I figure if you're going to have a theme, you might as well have a basic. You might as well keep it basic for the early stuff. Now, I do have, I think, came up with a list of 14, 16 different potential themes and dungeons and dungeon levels and stuff, so I have those to choose from. Going ahead, when I get to the point where the first level is really nicely done, then I'll start worrying about implementing future levels, sort of like an expansion, I guess, to the base 1-level game. So an example of that might be I'm probably going to have an undead crypt themed level, which is going to have lifesteal as the gameplay theme. So all of these same roles will still be there, but there will be more of a focus on lifesteal as a mechanic throughout, tying that all together. But that's for the future. So anyway, for this level, what do we have? Filler, we're going to have a giant rat. Attacker is going to be a rat man. And caster implies magic, but really it just needs to be something that hits hard periodically. So I'm going to go with a Ratman Hunter, and I'm going to give the Hunter a crossbow, and it's going to take a round or maybe a couple of rounds for the crossbowman, for this Hunter to reload his crossbow. That's sort of what I'm thinking with that. So I think that fills the caster role. Defender is just going to be a barricade, straight up wall, gets in the way. Healer, I'm taking some liberties with this as well. I mean, because you don't want to be too cookie cutter. So my healer is going to be the Rat Caller, which is going to be kind of a Ratman Shaman, I guess. And what it's going to do is every encounter that includes a Rat Caller is also going to include giant rats. Just kind of makes sense. And if you kill a giant rat, then the Rat Caller will summon a new rat, which in game mechanics is effectively just going to resurrect a dead rat. But thematically, it'll be calling in new rats to the fight as you kill off the old ones. So that's going to be the healer, so to speak, because it's reviving fallen allies, effectively. And also, this makes the filler a lot more interesting when you get to the more complicated encounters. I think that should tie together nicely. Buffer, we're going to have the Herbalist, who has a Barkskin ointment or spell, or however I decide to do this, which is basically going to give a damage shield of some sort to the person you cast it on, giving temporary HP, or I might even go old school D&D Barkskin and just have it ignore an attack. I think that's what it did. It just ignored a certain number of attacks. So if you've got a level 2 Barkskin on your giant rat, then the first 2 attacks against it just degrade the Barkskin twice until it becomes vulnerable again. Something like that. I'm not going to worry about the exact implementation of this just yet, but I think that'll be pretty cool. And then my debuffer is going to be a Warlock who's going to effectively have a curse ability, lowering the party's melee damage stat, because again, physical damage is the theme of the level. So buffer helps them to absorb physical damage. I could have also had a buff where you increase the strength, and I might actually give the Herbalist multiple spells to give it more things it can do. So it might have an attack buff as well as the damage absorption. And then the Ratman Warlock, the debuffer, is going to be the debuff sort of version of that. So first is going to lower the party's damage and maybe make them more vulnerable to damage as well. And then boss, well, we'll worry about that in the future, once we've got all this implemented. Okay, so the point of all this, I'm not actually planning on doing all of these monsters just right now. But one thing I do want to do is get my underlying combat system figured out, and I'm going to be using some Yanfly scripts for this. In particular, with my idea of having the defender just being a barricade, which, you know, maybe you'll have a hunter behind it who's got a ranged weapon, I want to use the row plugin. So we're going to be having, our combat system is going to involve rows. You can put your warrior up front to protect your wizard. Likewise, the enemy will have a barricade up front protecting the hunter and the rat callers, spellcasters. The rat caller and giant rats in one encounter, the rats will be up front, the rat caller will be in the back. So you have to kill the rats first to get through to get to the rat caller who's resurrecting the rats. That kind of thing. I think there's a lot of potential here. So I really want to have a row system that I'm going to be using. And that's going to be the goal of today, is to try to make the combat system function for rows. I'm not worried about game balance or anything else at the moment. I just want a system that can work, and I can fiddle with the details later. Okay. So I do want to quickly point out here Yanfly. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure everybody is familiar with Yanfly. But Yanfly has a whole bunch of free plugins. Just go to the plugins page. Plugins list, there we go. Yeah. A whole bunch of free plugins to use. Terms of use, if you check on this, it's free to use for free games and also for commercial games. So if I decided I wanted to sell this game for money, I'm not planning on doing that, but hypothetically, if I wanted to, somewhere down the line, I would still be allowed to use Yanfly's plugins. I'm just, common sense things, credit Yanfly in the credits of the game, saying that, you used some of the Yanfly Engine plugins. So that's pretty nice. Check it out for yourself if you're doing RPG Maker stuff and you want to do that. So there are a lot of plugins, and probably we will be using quite a few of them. I mentioned Lifesteal, for example. There's a Lifesteal plugin. So we'll probably be using that if we get that crypt level going at some point. But as it stands for today, the important things are Core Engine, which I've installed. I do have the desktop optimization installed as well, since I'm not planning on doing any smartphone type stuff with my games. So since it's going to be a desktop exclusive, having a more optimized desktop version as opposed to the default, which is an optimized for handheld smartphone kind of thing. And the one other plugin, of course, is the Row plugin, which, where is it? You would think would be under Battle. This is where I was looking for it initially. Battle plugins. Oh, sorry, one more. Battle Engine Core. I have this installed as well. Just because I have the core plugins seem important, but no, you have to go all the way through to the very bottom here to Gameplay. Gameplay plugins, and then you have Reformation here. Okay. Go to plugin. First of all, yeah, this. I commented in the past that I didn't particularly want this thing showing up every single time I started. I think we can actually just turn this off. Show a splash screen made with MV and / or a custom splash screen. Right, so we're going to turn this off for now. Now, this is the kind of thing where I would probably put like my own company logo or something here. Replace this image with something else. So I don't actually begrudge them for having this here. Besides which, it is kind of their thing. So with that off. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. And given how annoying that would be to a player, I don't know that I would actually want a company logo there either, especially since it can't be skipped. Something to consider, for sure. Okay. So yes, we have Core Engine, Battle Engine, and Reformation. The optimization, again, if we just go up to here, this one is not actually a standard plugin. This involves rewriting some of the core script files of the game. So there's special instructions on how to install those on the website. I'm not going to get into it. But yes, so we have these three. Also, the order is very important. And I guess that's actually probably why Reformation is where it is. Because if a plugin is referring to another plugin, Yanfly has a lot of interconnected plugins, then you need to have the previous plugin installed above it in this list. The ordering is very important. And probably the last time we'll look at this in this part. So Core Engine is at the very top. Highly recommend you to place the plugins in the order shown below. And then Battle Engine is going to be here, and then Reformation was, way down at the bottom. Okay, good. We have all of these done here. Why am I pushing space? It's because these work differently than the other parts. Okay. So there are a ton of parameters here. I want to keep it relatively simple. Max rows, I'm going to keep it at 2. Yeah, plugin supports 1 to 10, that's fine. Could input a text if I wanted to, but whatever, we'll do it that way. Command name, row, sure. So our menu, in-game menu now has a row command. We can enable the ability to change rows. Do we want to be able to change rows during battle? That's something I guess we can worry about later. Okay. Here we have our row settings. Going up to 10, and that's basically it. Oh, and then also enemy rows at the very end, right? Some extra details there. So what we're going to have, essentially, is we're going to have we're going to be dealing with these first 2 rows. Actually, let's just get rid of all those. Okay. We're going to have these first 2 rows, and the way that we're going to implement these is that we're going to have states. And we're going to have, probably row 2 will have a state which makes you take less melee damage or even makes you immune to melee damage. We might actually, now that I think about it, we might be interested in getting Yanfly's Taunt plugin installed and using that so that row 1 will have a taunt effect for melee attacks. So melee has to hit the front row. That is something to consider. Right. So they have some examples here. States cannot be removed and are considered to be passive abilities. Okay, and then there's, yeah, lunatic mode stuff. We're not dealing with that just yet. Changelog, quite the changelog there. Okay. So. Knockout and guard, I think we want to keep these two where they are. Everything else I'm actually just going to delete because I don't care about using their default. Their default ones are all pretty basic. I can easily recreate those as I need them. So 3 is going to be front row. It's going to be a passive. We're not going to give it an icon so that it won't show up in combat. And 4 would be our back row. Right, we're not going to worry about any of these. Okay. Oh, got a lot of documents I've been doing on this computer. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to take this row formation, copy, paste. There we go. That way I can refer to this easily while I'm doing other stuff. In particular, I want to use these note tags. So default row, which was set in here, where default row is 1, which is the front row. And row only X. Okay. There we go. Skills. So attack. I feel like actually this is a lot of stuff I should be playing around with on my own because it's occurring to me now that there's a bunch of stuff here I don't actually quite understand yet, and I don't know that I want to muck around with it too much on camera here. Which kind of makes this a nothing video, doesn't it? Okay, well, the first thing I guess that we're going to want to set up here is we're going to have a troop set up, basic troop, 2 bats, that's fine. Just hit battle test. Got our 4 people, that's fine, okay. But isn't this supposed to put us into a combat? What is going on here? Okay, I guess stuff has changed since I've last done a lot of this. Anyway, that's fine. So we can just go here, create a new event, image, monster, bat, sure. Same as characters, action button, battle processing, bat, okay. Apply, okay. Alright, there we are. Okay. We've discovered a number of issues right off the bat, so it was good that we've done this. System. Side view battle. Right, not enabled by default. Okay, music, battle. Let's just get rid of this for testing purposes. Was there something else? Okay. Dentown. Edit. Specify battle back. We're just going to put something here so that we don't see the same thing. This isn't actually important. It is the town. Oh, whatever. We'll just do this. That's fine. Okay. That should fix a bunch of the issues. Okay, so here we go. So we've got our people on the side there. Attack. We're really good at this. Okay. This is going to be a whole bunch of busy work at this point. Okay, so now let's just set them up like this. It's fine. Battle engine. I have some questions. Because that was very, very slow. I don't see a way to modify that right off the bat, so I guess that's something I'll worry about later. Let's check one more time. Selection, enemy select, actor select, battle log, optimize. Okay. Animation rate, there we go. Lower for faster. We'll see what that does. Okay. And again, rather than muck around with a whole bunch of stuff all at once, let's just see what happens. Still feels pretty slow. Right, okay, so what that animation was is it's this speed here. Not the speed of anything else I'm doing. One more thing to check here. So we do have a row formation. Alright, I'm going to have to modify that as well. Yeah, so hero warrior up front, mage and priest at the back. Now if we do this, yeah. So we can see they've arranged themselves into rows. Okay. Now currently I don't believe being in a row actually does anything. Whoops, there's going to be a ton of little fiddly things that have to be dealt with here. Oh, this... Don't stay closed? Okay, there's all kinds of disappointment happening in this episode, I must say. Place your melee allies here, place allies here. Aim. Back row. We're just doing 2. Sure. You can be more creative later. Place allies here who want to keep their distance from the enemy. Is that too long? Oh, you can check it out. Yes. Okay. Also, if you put everybody in the back row, what happens? Everybody's in the back row. Excellent. Okay. Right, so without a Taunt plugin, we are basically, with the way it's set up now, we have the like Final Fantasy VII style, and I guess other Final Fantasies, a lot of them do the same thing, where you have your front row does full damage, your back row does less damage, but also receives less damage. So that's fine. So is there anything else that we really want to do aside from having the front and the back row? Having the front row give somebody the taunt status. I don't actually think I need front and back row to even be statuses, honestly, because I think, if I understand the plugin correctly, you can just put states. Okay. Well, we do have that version, so I see. This is just a more convenient way of doing it. We can change those states if we want to, but that's just marked so that it'll tell us what it is that the enemy actually has here. Or ally. Words. I'm just saying words. Right, so if we decide that we want to have specific status effects for people in the front and the back, these are now assigned in our system to do that. So if we wanted a taunt that was separate from a front row, for example, we could do something like that. All right, now skills. Guard. Make it so the skill item can only be used if the battler is in the row. If multiple rows are used, the battler can be in any of these rows. X to Y. Okay. So with this, I could, for example, put row only 1. And now well, there's a couple of things I did wrong there. One of which is I'm going to want them to kill me a lot faster for the sake of this demonstration, just so I can test this, make sure that it works the way I want it to. But second of all, oops, we're going to put you in the back row. Okay, you can attack. You cannot attack. Clearly I need to adjust the sounds here. Right, and I don't have a taunt effect. So never mind. Ultimately, I guess what it comes down to, I lied earlier, we're installing something else, is that we're going to need a taunt effect here in order to get this to work. All right. Taunt. Click here. Oops. English, Dropbox. That's what the code looks like. Download, direct download. Save. Open folder, that's fine. Cut. Then a fortune. JavaScript. Plugins. Paste. Font. Okay. That's the first step. Second step is making sure it's in the right area. So it's okay. It looks like it's under battle plugins, but where I'd expect it to be. Yes, okay. Now if we go into plugins, font, okay. And yeah, you can drag them to move them around. Okay. So we have Taunt underneath Battle Engine Core and row formation at the very end. Okay, that was relatively painless. We now have a taunt mechanic. There are no parameters whatsoever. However, there are some note tags: physical taunt, magical taunt, certain taunt, ignore physical taunt, bypass taunt. There's not actually that much here. Let's just copy the note tags here because this is the important part. And I'm not actually saving this. This is just for my own convenience for now. So we'll paste under note tags what they are so that we can reference them easily. Excellent. Okay. Apply. So now what we're going to do, state front row. Front row is going to be a physical taunt. Apply. So with those changes made, adjust our rows, give this a check. So yeah, there's nothing showing up in battle to show that we have our taunt effect active. So we're just going to attack, magic, fire. I guess I could actually be guarding. That would probably make more sense. Okay. So what just happened was they took the 2 hits, which was what we expected to happen. I was kind of hoping that with the front row dead, the second row would be considered to be the front row, but I guess we don't actually need that, because what's happening here is we've sealed attack so that it's limited to the front to row 1 as opposed to the front row, so that's to be expected. But they couldn't actually take hits at all. Yeah, we don't have any hits. That's fine. As expected. Okay, so I'd probably want to test that a bunch more times to make sure that the physical taunt is actually working, or I could just give it an icon. Actually, that would be the easier way. Okay. So what I want to do now is change this. So we confirmed that this works, but I don't actually want to seal attack from the back row. I just want to change it. So I guess this will go stats, back row. We have, if you're in the back row, element rate, physical. I could just put physical down to 0. That would be one thing to do. Debuff attack. Be another thing I could do. I could come up with more states. I think for now, we will put this down to 50. So if you're in the back, your physical attacks do 50% damage. I don't even know why I'm mucking around with this kind of thing. It doesn't really matter because this isn't important for balance just yet. I just want to make sure I have a system that works. Is this the system that I want to work? Well, what I would actually kind of like to have happen is if everybody in the front row is unconscious, the people in the back row are now considered to be in the front row. So using physical taunt, I can sort of mimic that in a sense. I guess I could have a script that changes their row. So if the people at the front get knocked out, then they would move forward. Conditional row modification. I guess it would be in here then, wouldn't it? So what is this saying? User.hp rate greater than 50, row plus equals 1. Else row equals 1. So with this kind of a script, everybody would be at the front row initially, and then they would back up if they took... Wait. HP rate. If their regen rate was higher, then they go up a row? I guess really what I want is I just want to look at the JavaScript functions instead of trying to make sense of this. Okay, this will return the number of members found in that group at row X. Number of alive members. Oh, well that's easy. Okay, yeah, this is why you check the script. Instead of having to do anything funky, I just have to use the update rows function. If a row is empty and or doesn't have any alive members, all the remaining members behind that row will move forward one row until all the empty rows are gone. Okay. So when would I call this function? I would like to call this every time somebody is knocked out. So can I just put that under the knockout state? Update rows? Knockout. I don't think I can, because if I just put script code in here, I don't think it's necessarily going to do anything. Hmm. Okay, if we go under troops, script, I could put it here and have it run at the end of every round of combat. That might be enough. I guess we'd probably do turn then. Okay. I forgot to change the rows. And they came forward. Okay. Good. That seemed to work. Now, let's make sure that this is not going to move them forward when they shouldn't. So we'll take the bat and we'll put its attack back down to a more reasonable value, and we'll test this again. Didn't forget. Okay. So now, at the end of the turn, nobody should step forward. Good. Okay. That seems to be working. That seems to be working nicely. Plugins. So really, what's going to happen? I'm probably just about finished here for the day. Honestly, I'm going to be over the next week digging through all of the plugins, finding a whole bunch of stuff that I want to do because, like, I've seen all of the YouTube videos. Oh, that's something I forgot to mention, which I meant to mention like an hour ago. Yanfly has a YouTube channel as well as the website, and I will put links to both of those in the description of this video when it's done recording, streaming, whatever. Again, I'm sure everybody already knows where to find those, but I figure it's only fair if I'm going to be using Yanfly, I might as well provide easy access to those resources. So I will put those in the description. Yes, but anyway, so I've seen all the videos. I know vaguely what kind of options are available, but it might take me a little while to find things. So rather than doing this all on video, I think I need to really just spend a lot of time picking away at it on my own. I think that just makes more sense. What I'm looking for currently is, if we look in here under troops, Troop 1 has some script. I believe Yanfly has a script that makes it so that the Troop 1 effects act as a global script. So I could have this running in every single battle, no matter which troop is involved. Like, it just automatically copies the script in the first troop into all other troops. So that's what that's what I'm currently looking for. It might be under Battle Engine, or it might not. Side view, positions, sprites, damage pop-ups, settings, enemy select, battle log. Doesn't look like it. That might be an extra script that I need to install. Okay. So there's a ton of stuff I can be messing around with here. It won't be in here, right? Highly, highly doubt it. Okay, so I guess one more thing that we can do here is I'm going to change the maximum here. So let's say 20. Let's delete all of these. Cave. Oops. There's a title. There is a rat. We can just put placeholders here for all of the various enemies. So we'll just copy this for all of them. This will be... whoops, that's totally not what I meant to do. That. Ratman. Ratman Hunter. Barricade. rat collar, Ratman herbalist, Ratman warlock. And then we'll have a couple of slots for bosses, leave a few extras. In keeping with the random theme, I'm probably going to try to think of at least 2 different bosses for each level and then have it randomly select one. And yeah, then we'll... So, I mean, that would fit nicely into 10 here, but I don't want to not leave myself extra space, so we'll probably... I mean, I could even just go to 20 for each one and just have a whole bunch of empty space. That would be fine. But anyway, yeah, so we have some basic enemies there. And yeah, that should be fine. That's going to be all for today. A relatively short part. But I'm just trying to get some stuff done. I got a bunch of stuff to look into before the next part happened. So all I was really planning on doing today was getting the row plugins set up. That was a lot faster than I intended, than I was expecting it to be, rather. But that's going to be it. So yeah, I will see you next week for more of whatever we do then. See you then.